My experience when I first started to get into coffee was that it wasn't just a drink I was drinking, but it quickly became a hobby, something I was researching and looking into. A crazy cup of coffee would have me looking up why it tasted so mad. Was it to do with geography and where it grew? Was it to do with farming? Was it to do with how it was roasted? All things that will kind of determine what makes this cup of coffee taste so interesting. It was something I was doing every morning, making a cup of coffee. I'd researched the best places that made it like I wanted it. There were even occasions where I'd be on holiday and would check that there was nice coffee to go and have. Coffee beans and equipment would dominate presents that people got for me for birthday and Christmas. It's mad really, and slightly close to being overwhelming. I'm a football fan and often think that it would be so hard to get into football without the years as a child talking about it or the hours of punditry resentfully listened to. There's so much football stuff that to just pick all that up is pretty difficult, and maybe coffee is similar. Coffee is full of expertise and information, and there are people all over the world doing incredible things, but it is also that thing we do first thing in the morning, bleary-eyed and at our most humble, to just get some sort of day started. I'm annoyed by how coffee is presented, often exclusively talked about from the face of people who seem to be sniffing a bad smell. Actually, it's a lot like that annoying punditry you get with football. It is time he woke up and smelled the coffee. He is lazy and doesn't deserve to wear the shirt. You get what I mean. Coffee and football are both more incredible than that. In this drink, I'm connected to a farmer in Colombia. How mad is that? I'm all for passion and geeking out about stuff, but let's not forget how fun coffee is and how deep the rabbit hole is, but how ultimately we're all just trying to get some sort of day started. For what it is worth, if you're interested, this is how I make my coffee. I have this nice grinder because I can't be bothered hand grinding, and I've been convinced that my coffee will taste better if I grind it fresh. I spent some money on dear Wilf. I've had him for years and I love him. There's this set of slightly wobbly broken scales that work great. I do think scales are important. If you want to know what is happening and how to adjust what you're doing to make the coffee taste nicer, it's probably helpful to know how much coffee and water you're putting into the thing. There are then those gifts I mentioned of a gooseneck kettle, because I was convinced it is better to have a controllable pour and to be able to change the temperature I'm heating my water to. It is a good kettle, but it does have an annoying beep. At the moment I'm making most of my coffees with this AeroPress, and so a recipe for you. My favourite rule of thumb for filter coffee like this is for every 100 millilitres of water you want 6 grams of coffee. This AeroPress recipe makes 250 millilitres of water, so 15 grams of coffee. Stand up your AeroPress so that the paper bit is like this, pointing the sky, and add your 15 grams of coffee. You then want to do a bloom, which is just adding water, but not all your water, so that the coffee starts extracting. And you want to leave 30 seconds for that. After those 30 seconds, add the rest of your water to the top of the AeroPress, and I find that to be about 250 millilitres. And then leave it so you've got a total time of 1 minute 30. Add your paper, flip it over and squeeze it out, and that takes generally 2 minutes tops, and I find that recipe to work with most coffees. If I have a few people coming over, I'll get out the Chemex. It's just a big vase that you can put paper into to strain coffee through. They aren't new, you can actually see them in episodes of Friends, but they do appeal to something of a fascination for Richard and me that I find often presenting itself. And then an honourable mention for this Colito mug set that I have. I should use it more, but I love it having pride of place on my shelf. I don't do the home espresso thing. I've actually been convinced since working in a cafe that it is impossible to make good espresso at home in any kind of reasonable and affordable way. In the morning I'd go into the shop and open up and dial in. Dialing in is just making sure the coffee tastes nice for all the customers. And there'll be mornings where I'd drink handfuls of espresso and waste hundreds of grams of coffee. It was okay because we'd then go sell loads and the waste was all factored in. But at home the waste is not factored in. There's no way that I can make the coffee as good as I did in the shop at home. But maybe we'll talk about that more later, because I'd love to look at that question more. Can you make a good espresso at home? But yeah, my experience when you start getting into coffee is it quickly becomes a hobby. We've barely even got our fingernails sharp enough to start scratching the surface of all there is to talk about in coffee. And this channel will look at more things. So if you're enjoying my style and what I have to say, please do follow along. I'm going to leave you with a montage of me cleaning my lovely grinder. I was putting it together and I thought this is just like that bit in Toy Story where Woody gets fixed. And so hopefully it's nice and calm and relaxing. But yeah, if you like what you listen to, please do follow along and come to